Good morning, everyone. Just want to make sure you can hear me. It's 9 o'clock and we are going to get started. We have a lot to cover this morning. I want to just start by saying thank you for being here first thing on a Monday morning. And, we're really excited about some of the tools. And Estefania, is there anything you'd like to say to the members before we get started and I introduce myself?
Okay, no, I want to thank everybody to be here. We're very excited that we're starting with this training and moving ahead with the transition to PropTx. So Ashley is going to be here presenting for us. Thank you, Ashley, for being here. We're going to be going through the Realm tool, the SkySlope forms, and we're going to have an overview for Ad Edit. I want to let everybody know that the board is going to be sending you your credentials shortly so you can access the tools. Right now, Ashley is going to walk us through it, but you're going to be receiving an email with how to log in and instructions on everything. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand, unmute yourself, or write in the chat, and we can go over that. And thank you very much. I'll leave it to Ashley now.
Thank you. So welcome. Thank you for being here. My name's Ashley St. And I am one of the trainers for the PropTx tools. And I'm here today to share a little bit with you about some of these new tools that you're going to be having access to. As mentioned, you will receive an email from your board with your credentials shortly to be able to sign in and test these tools out. But my job this morning is to give you a little bit of an introduction to them. So I'm going to turn my camera off and get into a little bit of sharing with you of the PropTx tools and resources. Okay, so welcome everyone. We're going to be here today for about 3 hours. And in this time, between 9 and 12, and I'll just ask that as everyone signs in that they mute their microphones. Some of you I'm able to mute for you, but just, unless you have a question, we want to be keeping our microphones on mute today. And we're going to be here, like I said, for 3 hours. And in the very first module, it's just going to be a mini introduction to some of the tools that you have access to through PropTx. And then I'm going to sign into Realm. And when we get into Realm, this will be a brief overview showing you some of the tools that you'll be able to utilize in this mobile first MLS interface. Module 3, which will take a short break in between, about 5 minutes. In Module 3, we will give you an introduction to SkySlope Forms and DigiSign. SkySlope Forms is a digital forms provider, very similar to web forms. You'll continue to have access to web forms, but SkySlope is very popular amongst a lot of brokerages. Many brokerages are using SkySlope for their back-end brokerage management system. And so having the ability to integrate your front and back office just makes sense. And so SkySlope Forms and their eSignature platform, DigiSign, is something that's included in the PropTx tools, and you'll have a preview of that today. Now, initially, when you get your login credentials to the PropTx system, you will have immediate access to Realm and to SkySlope and all of that, but you won't immediately have access to the listing maintenance system, which is Ad Edit. I'll leave it to your board to talk to you about timelines and things like that, but essentially you won't be utilizing the listing maintenance program to add and edit listings directly into the PropTx MLS until the cutover from ITSO. And so I will give you a brief preview of it, but it won't be something that you start using right away. So you can expect some additional training in the future on the Ad Edit. Now, PropTx and its resources. PropTx is full of innovative tools and technologies some of which you're actually familiar with. What I love most about the PropTech offering is that there's so many features and third-party tools that are included for you. You know, things that maybe you were paying for separately before, now it's included. And so that's a really beautiful thing. So I'll make mention of what some of those are. Realm is sort of our meat and potatoes, what we're going to be focusing on today. And it's a mobile first, client centric MLS interface that allows you to collaborate with your clients for the home search process. Your SkySlope forms, again, that digital forms provider, very similar to web forms. If you know how to use web forms, you'll be able to utilize SkySlope forms quite easily. SkySlope Offers is a software that allows you to manage your offer process digitally. It's quite similar in its idea as your open offers program, but works a little bit differently. The goal here is to have a full audit process from start to finish. That's something that's going to be, you know, available to you soon. List Track is a software that I thoroughly enjoy. It reminds me of something like Google Analytics for your listings. It essentially allows you to see how many eyeballs your listings are getting and from where. So it picks up views on websites like realtor.ca, but also any views from the MLS interfaces like Realm and CoreLogic's Matrix, which are both PropTech offerings. FinTracker is one you're probably quite used to. It's even FinTrack themselves say that it's helpful for compliance, which I really, really like. And that is included. So if you're someone who's been paying for FinTracker, you're able to, save yourself a little bit of money there. Now, all of the PropTech tools are accessed using secure authentication or a two-factor authentication, very similar to any of the bank websites, email websites that you're utilizing these days. And I find that it's made my life quite a little bit easier moving over from the Clarity. And I'm just going to remind everyone as you're signing in, if you could mute your microphones. HoodQ is accessible with neighborhood and address information. If as someone who uses Geo Warehouse, you might be used to seeing links to those HUD-Q reports. They sell for about $14 each. And what you'll notice is when I'm in our PropTech MLS system today, we actually have links to the neighborhood information, the address guide right on the listing. And those reports are free to PropTech users. REST AI is integrated within the MLS system that allows you to be able to hear listing summaries by audio, which is a fantastic accessibility feature. And coming soon is just search by photograph and things like that. Broker Bay is a front office system that is available to brokerage users on the PropTech MLS service and for your front office. And of course, you'll notice that we have integrated online appointment bookings. Now, if you're utilizing an alternate front office system, not to worry, our system is able to integrate with other front offices like Lone Wolf products or Showing Time and all those other things. CoreLogic, already mentioned, that's your matrix. Initially, when you're testing out the PropTech service, you will not have access to matrix, it will be Realm. But eventually there will be an opportunity for you to choose between Realm and Matrix. Geo Warehouse, Terranet's Geo Warehouse, your land registry. This is accessible to you. Our system allows for 6,000 reports a year. And then your MPAC. So your MPAC data, our Geo Warehouse subscription is quite interesting because we have Geo Warehouse and MPAC appearing in the same place, but we do offer an alternate access point to MPAC's property line store for you to use as well. Now, if you're just signing in, I'll just repeat that you can expect an email from your board with your login information, your credentials to access the PropTech tool so that you can sign in and test things out. The URL that's up on the screen, tools.proptex.ca/ PropTx 2 is the tools URL that you will use to sign into the PropTx tool system. I'll be utilizing that as a launch pad today to jump into the various tools and technologies that I'm going to be demonstrating for you. So let's start off with an introduction to Realm, and I'll say again, because I see people are kind of signing in one at a time here. If you have a question, please feel free to type it into the chat or raise your Zoom hand, and we'll be happy to take you off of mute and have you ask your question. We really want to make sure that you get the most out of today. And of course, anything to do with timelines and things like that, you want to direct those questions to NAR directly. So Realm is our mobile-first, client-centric MLS interface, and there's 3 ways that you can access Realm. The first way is from your board homepage or your PropTx tools page. That's the page that I'm going to be utilizing today. You also have the ability to download the Realm mobile app. If you go into your Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, you can type in the keyword Realm MLP, and you'll be able to download that free app. Once you have your credentials, you can sign in as a member. You say, I'm a member, and you put in your PropTx user ID and your assigned PIN, and then we will send you a text message with your secure authentication login, and then you'll be able to sign in. I'll talk a little bit more about the client sign in once we get into the system. A third way that you can access Realm is by visiting the Realm website directly, which is app.realmmlp.ca, app.realmmlp.ca. And you can use this site, but so can your clients, right? Because your clients won't have access to the PropTx tools page. That's something that's unique to PropTx users. And so they would either access Realm via the app or by visiting the website on any device with a browser. Because Realm is designed mobile first, you can visit this website on your cell phone, on a tablet, on your desktop, and Realm is designed to work completely 100% sync. It's the same across all devices. Now, some of the functionalities might be a little bit different on a mobile. The perfect example is I can share using my smartphone sharing options on a cell phone, but I can't do that on my laptop as an example. But everything that you can accomplish on the computer, you can accomplish on the phone. And I think that's something that's really unique to Realm. As someone who's used Matrix for a number of years, and the Prospects mobile app, there's some features that translate over and some that don't. Whereas with Realm, you're going to have 100% sync across all devices, which is really, really nice. So I'm going to jump out of this presentation here, and I'm just going to reshare my screen with the tools here. Okay, so you should be able to see the PropTx tools page up on the screen, which is really, really great. And this is sort of your jump off. So when you sign in, you'll go to tools.proptx.ca/PropTx2, and you can expect this URL to be shared with you by your board. And you'll notice that right at the very top, I have Realm. But if I were to scroll down, I start to see links to the various PropTx tools that I have access to. Now, just to make sure that everyone's clear on this, there's your web forms link right there. You'll continue to have access to web forms, which is a Korea product. So you don't need to panic about getting everything over to SkySlope Forms straight away. Your web forms will continue to exist right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on Realm. And because I've signed in with my 2-factor authentication, my Realm account signs in for me. Now you'll get to see that my dashboard is full of information here. And I'm someone who always has my browser zoomed in. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. You'll see that Realm will sort of shape shift to the size of the screen that you're using, to the zoom levels that you're using, but everything is there. It just repositions itself. Now, on my dashboard, I'm seeing news from my home board right up at the top there. When you sign in, that would be your NAR news for you. Over on the left-hand side, I have access to something called My Market Areas. You'll see that I've set up to be notified about any new or updated listings that are coming out in certain areas of interest for me. So I have Niagara Falls and Port Colborne over here, Welland, Fort Erie, Niagara, and St. Catharines. Now, automatically, the default here is to view any new or updated listings that have been placed on the market today. That means since midnight. If you wanted to, you could change the time period to see a little bit more activity. Let's say I was interested in what's been going on in the last week, and I can see broken down on the left-hand side how many listings are falling into each category. It's almost like a merger between your hot sheets and your market watch that sits on your dashboard in Matrix. Okay, and it's customizable to you. You can go into the settings icon here and you can edit those market areas, identifying which property classes and trade functions you'd like to see on your dashboard. It's one of the ways that you can stay abreast of market changes and activity. Now, over on the right-hand side of my dashboard, underneath my board news, I'm able to see recently viewed listing and land registry parcels. So if you were wanting to go back to a listing you were looking at recently, you can quickly jump to them from your dashboard. Now, if I were to go into the See All, it would show me much more listings that are in my history, but I'm not going to get away from this screen just yet. There's another place where those live, which is in contacts. So we'll talk about that soon. Down below, I have some recent searches that I've run, and these are just any searches. It doesn't have to be a saved search. So if I wanted to run them again, I could just simply click on the thumbnail, it would run the search, or I could say, hey, I want to save that actually, and I could go ahead and save it for myself or for a client. Farther down, I have saved lists. Lists are very similar to the listing carts that you might find in other MLS systems, such as Matrix. And what I like most about lists is there are manual lists that I can create that, maybe I want to create a list of properties that I'm going to go show with a client. So I have easy access to pull them up on my phone. But there are also automated lists, things like notes and likes. You'll get to see once we get into the listing detail view that just like some popular social media networks, there are little heart icons on all of the listings. If you click on a heart, you're saying, I like this property, and we bookmark it for you and we save it on this list. Now we do the same thing for your clients. So that's your dashboard. Okay, I just wanted you to see what was here because I will make reference to the dashboard a few times, primarily to the saved lists, and then utilizing the recently viewed. When you get access to the PropTx system and you start using Realm for the first time, I strongly encourage you to go to your profile avatar. If I look at the top right-hand side of my screen, I've got my professional photo there. Initially, what you'll find there is your initials. Now I'm going to click on the Edit Profile button, and this Edit Profile button brings me into my settings where I can do things like add my website URL, social media links, where people can contact me. I can upload my photo here, and this photo would be visible to my clients as well as other Realm users. Over on the left is the navigation menu for your settings. So personalization allows you to do things like customize the client invitation that goes out along with the welcome message when we first invite, once your client has confirmed their account, as well as my verbiage for emails that I'm sending out associated with a saved search. You'll hear that term a lot today, saved search. It's the equivalent of an auto email in the system that you're using now. And of course, my email signature is down here at the bottom. So this is your personalization. The next area of your settings you'll want to consider is the account settings. You'll get to see that there are various options for you to customize your experience. Like, what page do you want to start on when you sign in? For myself, you got to see I signed in, I landed on the dashboard, but maybe you want to sign in and start on search listings or another feature like the in app chat, for example. You can change that here. Another thing that you can do is change your search view. I'm going to be showing you additional views today, consumer, table, and map. So if you see one and you say, hey, you know what, that's the one for me, I want to start there every single time, you can do that by going to account and changing your search view to your preference. You can also choose to have your default search start you on any searches that you've saved in the past. So if I had saved, let's say, a search that was based on commercial sales or commercial leases, and I'm primarily a commercial practitioner, then maybe I want to set it up so that my default search will be commercial listings. And you can do that. Market areas is an alternate access to the market areas that you got to see on the dashboard. It's just the same information in a second place, so you can edit it based on your preferences. Now, notifications is really important for you. This will be the area that informs you about different types of activity that happen in your account. So, push notifications, if I put a check mark in the box there, that will send a notification to any device where the Realm mobile app is installed. So, as an example, if I have the mobile app installed on my cell phone, and this is to say my client has confirmed an account. So I invite my client to participate in Realm. They go through the steps of setting their account up. I would get a push notification or a banner pop up on my cell phone to say, your client has confirmed their account. Beside the push notifications on the right-hand side is your email notifications. For emails, you can choose to be notified in real time, daily, or never. So never self-explanatory. It means we're not going to email you. Daily would be once a day in the evening time. Our notifications right now start to go out around 8 p.m., but they could come, anytime over the night. And then real time is what it sounds like. Once my client confirms their account, Realm is going to send me an email. So I want you to take some time when you get access and go through these notifications and decide what's important to you. If you're not sure what a particular item is talking about, just hover over the information icon and Realm will explain it to you. It says you'll be notified when a client adds a listing to a list. That's their version of carts. And then I would specify how I'd like to be notified about that. In general, I would discourage anyone from having a universal setup here where you're being notified about everything or emailed about everything. And the reason why is because if you get bombarded with emails, you're a lot more likely to start disregarding them as they come in. Now, we have an in app chat feature that exists within Realm. And if you have the mobile app installed and someone sends you a chat message, that could be another PropTx user or it could be one of your clients, we will automatically send a push notification to the mobile device where the app is installed, no matter what. And if you don't have the mobile app installed on any devices, by default, we send you uh, an email with a summary of any chat messages that you've received in the last 24 hours. So if you're not a mobile app user on Realm, make sure you're just watching for that chat digest summary just in case someone does send you a chat. And you can also decide, you know what, I don't want to ever be notified about that or send it to me daily, even when I do have a mobile app as a backup. I know for me, I like to have lots of backups for notifications because I tend to dismiss them often. Over on the left-hand side, under notifications, is the land registry access. So for me, my count is up to 2,000 counts. I can see I've used 141 reports. If you run out of your 2,000, Geo Warehouse will grant you additional lookups up to 6,000 for the year, as long as you are promising them that you're not misusing the information. Land registry is really meant to be used for helping a client transact. Now, even though we have the land registry information built into our system, because it displays on MLS listings, when you're looking at land registry info on a listing, it doesn't count towards your lookup. It's if you were to go ahead and do a land registry search by itself. Okay, so you'll get to see a little bit of that today. Very good. Now, speaking of that land registry search, it lives under the resource links icon, which is up in the top. So if you look up in the top black bar over here, to the left of my photo, there's a question mark. This question mark brings you into help resources. There's some video and help articles here that you can explore and get some assistance on. The next icon over is this. I call it a Rubik's Cube icon. Some people call it a waffle, but the official technical name here is the resource links menu. So when I click on this little 9 square logo, I get access to a number of tools. One of the tools that's sitting here is land registry search. Let me just go ahead and click on that quickly. So land registry search within Realm allows you to search TerraNet records or Geo Warehouse records by owner name, if you want to search, or by street address or PIN. So if I have an address or a PIN number, I can actually just look up by address here without having to select a land registry office. But if I am looking up a record by owner name, I do need to specify the land registry office, just like Geo Warehouse. And so let me go into Niagara North office, and I'm going to search for the name Rinaldi. This is a company, by the way. Oh, no, I've done it wrong. Spelled it wrong. Well, here's what I can always count on, is a Smith. Oh, I think that I've broken it. Let me try that one more time because I know that I have records here. Oh, and I'll select my office. Okay. There must be a connection in the background that's missing. So yesterday, I was able to do that, but I noticed that there's a number of changes that have happened. So perhaps I've made a spelling mistake, but here, let me just go back to that record, that address pull. And if I wanted to open this up, I can by clicking on it. And so this one would now count towards my lookups for the year. Okay, this one would count towards my lookups for the year here. And I'm able to access quite a lot of the same information I can get in Geo Warehouse. One that's interesting is sometimes it will even display whether or not there's an active mortgage on the property, which is nice. I've got links to popular reports like the parcel register. Now, just a reminder, these reports are feeding over from Geo Warehouse, and this HoodQ address report, I don't want to use that one. I want to use the one from the listing. I've got my plans, surveys, and easements here if they're available. And then I have a feed coming over from MPAC. So I can see things like the lot frontage and depth, the zoning, property code and description, as well as the phased in assessment information for taxes. Now, here's a feature that's unique to Realm that I quite enjoy, and that is property history. You'll get to see on both the land registry records as well as on an MLS listing that we have a section called property history. What we do here is we combine board data along with TerraNet data to give you a more fulsome property history. So If I wasn't sure if this property had been on the market before, well, now I am, and here's the MLS record right here. If I wanted to access it, all I need to do is click on it, and it goes ahead and opens up that MLS listing for me, and I can see information about the property here. Isn't that neat? I'm just gonna reset and go back to my dashboard here. Let me grab, just gonna move my menu. There we go. All right, I'm gonna go back. That's your land registry search, and that's found under your resource links menu. Another thing that's under your listing, your resource links menu, is something called listing inventory. This is really a helpful tool for brokers of record, office administrators. Now, because I like to call it a super user account, or I've got superpowers here, I can choose any real estate brokerage. Okay, for you, it will automatically have your office selected, but I can choose my office, and then I can select to filter by salesperson if I would like to do that. And I'm able to view any of their listings that are on the system. So this can be a helpful way to look for new office listings and some other things like that. Okay. So for the salesperson, when they sign in, when they go into listing inventory, they'll automatically just see their own listings. Whereas for the broker, you'll be able to see for the entire office. And for my board staff that are on today, you'll be able to select which office you want to view and then filter accordingly. Some other great features that are included in here are things like sold statistics, notice pages, which gives you a more detailed experience of any changes in the market, and then your listing ad edit. So we're going to be accessing that in a little while. We also give you links to some training videos and other tools like SkySlope forms. Okay, so I'm going to close that off here, and I'm going to click on the next icon, which is the house icon. Anytime you click on the house icon, we reset you to your dashboard. And what you'll notice is that my dashboard has updated already to show me the land registry record that I pulled at 199 Lee, as well as that MLS listing for 199 Lee that I clicked on. The next icon over is the notification bell. And the notification bell, very similar to some social media platforms that you use, is giving you a summary of all of the information or all of the activity that's happened in your account, for myself as well as for my clients. Now, I see that under See More Homes that he has new matches for his search for Erie Homes. And if I wanted to know what that listing was, I would just simply click on Show Listing, and then I'm able to see, oh, there's a new match for him. I can also see he added a new listing to likes. And which listing was it? It was this one here. If I want to see the details, all I need to do is click on the MLS thumbnail, and it redirects me now to that particular listing where I can see, hey, what exactly is it about this house that my client has liked? Now, in our system on the listing detail view, and we will spend some more time looking at a listing later, but let's say, like, real life example. I noticed that my client liked this listing. I saw a notification about it, or I saw it in the notification bell. I'm going to send this via chat to my client. So I'm going to click on the chat bubble here, and I'm going to start to type in my client's name. So Seymour is a client of mine. So I'm going to type in his name up here, and I'll choose him from the list, and I'll say, hi, would you like to see this one? And I'll just send it. Now, when you send a chat from a listing, it automatically includes the listing with it. So it sends it pretty well as an attachment, which is neat. Now, if I wanted to start a chat another way, I can go directly into the chat bubble in the black menu at the top, which is to the left of the notification bell. Now, in this particular chat menu, so not from a listing, but in the main chat menu, I'm able to view any chats that I've participated in the past, or I could even start a new one by clicking on the compose. And now you have access to be able to message any other PropTx user or any of your clients. So I'm going to say, hi, Emily, and I'll send that off. Now, the next one over is documents. And the documents folder is a place where you can choose to share documents with your clients. I've uploaded a number of things into the documents folder. A fun one to upload could be something like the RICO information guide, or I have my board's client tip card that I might choose to share with that client. So I'm going to say share, and I'm going to send it over to my client Seymour. So now in Seymour's account, he'll be able to have access to this document as well. So you can probably think of a lot of different ways that you can share documents with people, but this is a quick way to share recent board stats or the RICO information guide if you're not sending it another way. Now over to the left of documents is contacts, and this is a big, big deal. Just like other popular MLS interfaces, having your clients added as a contact is a simple and easy way to be able to keep track of things that they're doing. And I see that there's a question that came in. It says, is there a way to import contacts into Realm, i.e. export from Matrix and import into Realm? And the answer is yes. So the first thing that you would do is you would export your contacts from the Matrix contacts module, and you would export them into a CSV file. Now, when I get into contacts in Realm, I'm going to look for this blue button with the two arrows on it. This button appears in different screens within this MLS interface, but essentially what it is your action button. It's going to show you a list of actions that are available to you. And let's say I've exported my clients from Matrix into a CSV file. I'm going to come into Realm and I'm going to say import clients. Now, when I go into the import client, I would upload a CSV file here from my computer. Just a heads up though, we always want to make sure that the labels, the field labels, are going to match from whatever system we bring them out from. You can do the same thing if you're bringing contacts over from your Gmail or any other provider, but there is a way to bulk add them. Now, when it comes to inviting your clients to utilize Realm, or let's say any new clients that you meet after you've done that initial import, I'm probably going to use this function here at the very top of my action button, which is add new client. So I'm going to go ahead and click on add new client. And today I'm going to be working with my client, Ken, and I'll put Ken's last name here. And I'm going to go down to the email address, and I could choose to add Ken's email. Now I only have so many email addresses, so I'm just going to use Seymour's email. Now in real life, I would use Ken's email. Now when I go down here, and if you would like to, you can choose to classify your clients by stage and type and all of that stuff. But based on personal preference. Down at the bottom, I can hit save. Now, if I click on the blue save button, what I'm really saying is I just want to save Ken's information so I don't forget it later. But Ken and I are really working well together. I'm confident that he is the perfect person to introduce to Realm. So I'm going to click on save and invite. When I click on save and invite, Ken will get an invitation email. Now here's a preview of the invitation email. And I actually have customized mine in the background in my settings. By default here, it says to sell your home. But I always change it to say properties because some of you, not all of you, but some of you maybe also trade commercially, or you have agents at your office that are commercial agents. So that's a good one to make a change to if you are a commercial practitioner all or part of the time. So I'm going to go ahead and click on send here. I could personalize it more if I wanted to, but I'm all good. So I've sent that invitation, and I know it's sent because now I have a button on Ken's profile. It says re-invite or disinvite. If I decide actually I don't really like Ken a whole lot, I can disinvite him, and the link for him to create a username and password for Realm will be discontinued. It'll be dead. It'll become a dead link. Now, Ken doesn't have any information in his account, boring. But that's because he's brand new. So I'm going to click on my client, see more homes, just to give you a little taste of the type of information that we keep track of here. So one thing I can see about Seymour is I know his account is active because it says here now, send account recovery email. That only happens when your client has already signed in, they've created a username and password and everything. I can also see that the last time Seymour accessed his account was yesterday at 3:43 p.m. This is my basic like contact summary page. The next tab over of the contact card is something called searches. So any saved searches, whether they have notifications or not, that I've saved or Seymour has saved for himself would be found here. So I can see that Seymour has a search here in Fort Erie. He's got some other searches that I created at Realtor Quest, some condominiums and different things like that. So Seymour's got an awful lot going on in his account. He's looking in Woodstock and in London and all these places. So in Brampton and Toronto. So Seymour's got a lot going on in here. That's okay. Maybe some buyers have a hard time making up their minds. Now, if I wanted to run one of these searches, all I would have to do is click on it. Or if I wanted to change the frequency of the search, I can click on the three little dots over here and choose settings that would allow me now to change, is Seymour getting an email or is he getting an app notification? And you'll see that screen when I save searches in a little while. The next tab over is lists. So remember how on my dashboard, I had a list of properties that I had liked or I'd written notes on, etc. And so we do the same thing for your clients. So I'm able to see any listings that my client has liked. There's that listing in St. Catharines that Seymour liked more recently. And suggestions, this is an automated list that gets created when you email someone manually. So if you manually email your client, the suggestions list acts pretty well as a sent folder. So if I send a manual email, suggestions is where I would go for that. Down below, I can see some additional manual lists like showings and cottages in the Bruce. And then this one, notes, is an automated list. So any of the listings on this list called notes would mean that my client wrote a comment or a note on the property. If I wanted to know what they said, all I would do is click on the listing and I would be able to view my client's notes. So I can see that 2 months ago, Seymour wrote on this property, would like to see. And, I probably should make sure that my notifications are turned on for when my client writes a note on the listing. The next tab over is for CMAs. If I had created any comparative market analysis for Seymour, they would be here. Any chat history. And you'll see there's one chat, it's a group chat between Emily, myself, Emily's another one of the PropTx trainers, and Seymour, and then one that's a private conversation between the two of us. Documents will show any documents I've shared with Seymour. So if I'm not quite sure which documents I've shared, or if I've shared certain documents as of yet, I can always verify that here. Now, here's one that I call real estate gold, and that's the tab history. History will show you any of the properties that your client has viewed recently. So if Seymour were to give me a call and say, Ashley, I really liked this property you sent me. And I said, oh, what's the address? And he said, I can't remember it. It was a plot of land. I don't remember the address, but it had snow on the ground. And I could come in here to the history and I would be able to pick out 33 Andrew Avenue straight away because it's the only listing thumbnail that has snow on the ground. So if your client's phoning you saying things like, oh, I don't remember the address, but it had a red door, you could get to see some of the listings that they've opened up. Now, the notes in your contacts are notes that are private for you. And so I've written needs a bedroom for their cat. And manage is the very last tab where you can decide the status of this particular client. So by default, when you add someone one at a time, we put them into the active category. When you bulk load your contacts, when you bring them over from Matrix, they're going to go into the inactive status. So you're going to go into manage, and then you'll decide if you want them to be an active client. That will be kind of popping up in your face a lot when you're doing work, or if you want them to, hang out just in your contacts list. And the third status is something called disabled. And what this does is it would prevent your client from being able to sign into Realm again. So I've invited Seymour, he's active. If Seymour puts his search on pause, but I still want him to be able to sign in, I can make him inactive. So he's not in front of me all the time, but he can still search. Or I could disable his access and he won't be able to sign in or use Realm anymore. Now, if you really, really, really don't like Seymour, you could delete him, but we've hidden the delete option. So often we hit delete and then we go, oh no, I needed that. So if you do need to delete a client, you'll click on the three little dots beside their, at the top of their card, and then you can choose delete here. Now I'm just gonna, refocus myself here. We're gonna go back up to the top of the screen. I'm gonna reset to the dashboard quickly because I want to sort of interrupt our uh, workflow a little bit. We are going to do some searching. Now, there's two searches up here that you can see. There's this search that's beside contacts. This actually brings me into the main search area where I've got a map, I've got listing cards here, and there's different views that you can use for searching. But another search option is farther over to the left, and that's this universal search bar up here. Now, when you're on a mobile, the universal search bar is at the top, and the more fulsome search that I just mentioned is at the bottom of the screen. So that's one change from mobile to desktop. But this universal search bar allows me to search by address. It allows me to search by PIN number, MLS number, whatever I have. So I'm going to show you first off a search by address. So I'm going to type in an address. And what I like about this example is that when I type in 122 State or 122 State Street in Welland, is I can see an MLS thumbnail that's new. I can see a recent listing, so from the last 2 years, that's terminated. And I can also see a land registry record. So when we're typing in an address into this universal search bar in Realm, it's looking for, through the MLS system for active listings, it's looking for unavailable listings from the last 2 years. And then it's also looking for the land registry records. And the land registry records searches all of Ontario. So even if I'm looking for a property that's never been on the PropTx MLS system, I can still find it. And I'm going to use an example of that being 24 Sussex Drive, which is, of course, the Prime Minister's address. And I'm not looking for this one in the Kawarthas, but 24 Sussex Drive, okay? In Ottawa, there's the Prime Minister's home, and that is the land registry record. I don't have an MLS listing thumbnail for it. And you got to see me pull a land registry record a little bit earlier with 199 Lee. So I'm just gonna go back to that. We'll do one more way of searching, which is by PIN number or property identification number. I'm just going to pull up this record here. And there it is, 116 Niagara Street, your board office address. Now, when you're looking for condominiums in the system, there's a few different ways that you can do it. So one thing is that you can decide to pull the building. So if you don't put a unit number and you just type in the building address, what you're going to start to see is listing records for everything that matches. So in this example, I see everything from the condo corp that's available or a recent listing, we'll call it in the last 2 years. But then I'm also able to see all of the records that are showing up in the land registry office. So that's pretty neat. Now, if I wanted to specifically look for one unit, I can put the unit in advance. Now, if I put the unit first, then I get the land registry records. If I put the unit after, I'll get the MLS records. Okay, so just depending on what you're looking for. Now, it still comes up land registry down below, which is really nice. But I just would encourage you to put the unit after so that you can get the MLS records and the land registry, because you'll notice if I put the unit first, it omits those MLS records. So that's just a little searching tip for you for using that universal search bar. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of search, because this is really what you're going to be utilizing most of the time. And there's three different mechanisms that you can utilize to search in this particular view. I like to utilize the filters in combination with the map tools. So I'll give you some examples of that. The first is this location filter that's here. I can utilize this to jump to an area or a region, municipality, or community. At this point in time, if I were to go into, let's say, St. Catharines, we have your municipal level. We don't have your individual neighborhoods in the system yet, but they are going to be brought over. So you can expect that. So I just don't want to panic you on the first time you sign in and you're looking for a neighborhood and you don't see it straight away, because they are coming. So St. Catharines, it puts that sort of invisible municipal boundary for me, and it's pulling all the listings that say they're in St. Catharines. So that's really helpful. Another thing that I can do, or another way that I can get around, and I just see I've got some map layers on, so you can turn that off, is I can utilize the jump to a location button. Now, jump to a location allows you to search for a neighborhood, an intersection, um, a school, hospital, any sort of landmark like that, which can be really, really helpful. So if I were to type in here something like, let me put an exact address here, 103 McNiven Road in Ancaster, and hit find. Okay, it's going to jump over to that particular area. Now, when I get over there, what I'm going to see are listings that are nearby. Listings that are nearby. Okay, I'll just do another example. So I'm going to go to Lake Street and Scott Street and St. Catharines. Now, I find that this is a Google map, so sometimes it prefers the United States of America. So it can be very helpful if you're looking for something like an intersection to put in the municipality. And again, as I zoom out, I start to see listings that are nearby to the area where I've redirected myself with the map. Now, the third way that you can reposition your map, and really there's four, but the third way is I can click on this little paper airplane icon. And what this does is it uses my location to reposition me. So you can see if I zoom out far enough, you'll be able to see where I'm located. And so I'm physically in Toronto right now, delivering this Zoom session to you. Now let me go back. Now this show your current location, I'll just make a mention of the usefulness of this. Imagine you are on a showing with your client and they say, oh, because don't they always say things like, how much are homes selling for around here? I might go into my filters and say, well, show me available and unavailable properties. You can freehold that are detached or something like that. And then I can utilize my current location to get to know, okay, well, what are the most recent sales that have happened nearby? So I can start to pull some unavailable properties that are close to me. Okay, isn't that interesting? And I can see available, unavailable. Now, if I wanted to, I could also say, you know what, I want to filter by status. So if you go to the heading more filters, that's where I could do some really neat stuff. Like say, I only want to see solds. Now, what if I only want to see sold properties that are totally somewhere else? I'm going to grab my location here and I'm going to go to the municipality of Thorold. That's more interesting. Toronto. Boring. Toronto's boring. Okay. Where have I gone here? Where did it take me? Oh, it's taken me. There I am in the right place. There we go. So I can start to see unavailable properties that are in Thorold that have sold. Isn't that great? Really helpful. And it's so quick. And imagine doing this from your cell phone, right? A client asks you a question and you're able to answer them straight away. Now, on our map, you can also choose to navigate by using your zooming in, zooming out, and clicking and dragging to reposition yourself. So if I wanted to quickly move around the map, I can click and drag and get around that way as well. Okay, so I'm going to go into. Now I've done something funny here. And so I'm clicking on clear. And the reason why is because I see that question. I want to make sure that my filters get cleared out. So I have this really bad habit where I'll say unavailable and I'll choose a status like sold, and then I'll switch back to available properties. But in the background, it's still trying to find sold properties. So if you're ever not sure what you've clicked on within Realm, you can choose to do a different type of filter. So you can either say clear, which would get rid of anything except your property class and trade function, keeps your map in the same place. Or I can click on the button that says explain. It would actually show me everything I clicked on and how it impacted my results. Now I see a question that came in saying, what's SC and what's SCE? And I see that's been answered by Paula. Thanks, Paula. Sold conditional and sold conditional with an escape clause. Fantastic. Great job. Thanks for working well as a team today. Okay, so this is my map filters. Now, this view here is something called consumer view. And you'll notice as I highlight over the various cards over here, I can see highlighted in blue where those listings are. Now, if I wanted to, let's say, work in another format, I can change my layout and to map, and that would get rid of those cards. And it gives me a little bit more screen real estate. I especially like this when I'm about to utilize the drawing tools. And so I'll just demo what some of those are. We have something called Draw a Circle, which is a radius tool. And this allows for me to choose a starting point, and I can just click and drag away from the start. And it would create a circle for me. But in the very center, I just want you to notice that it's measuring for me a kilometer distance. So if someone says something to me like, oh, I'd really like to be walking distance to such and such a place, I might say, well, let me do a radius of, a kilometer or so away from that start point for them. Maybe they want to be walking distance to their workplace. And this center white circle, I can click and drag to reposition that to anywhere on the map. And I can use the sizing handles on the outside to be able to make that larger or smaller as needed. Now I'm going to hit the garbage can over on the right-hand side or left-hand side, sorry, to get rid of that. Another tool that we have in our toolbox is the draw a polygon. And the polygon, very similar to the searches that or search tools that you have access to allows you to single click each time you'd like to change direction so that you can draw a very specific shape as a boundary for a client. Now, the very last one is the toggle draw mode, and toggle draw mode allows for you to draw custom shapes. And so I'm going to be drawing a very specific custom shape, and I'm going to draw an N for Niagara. Okay. And so I don't think anyone would want to live in an N, but I just wanted you to see that you could draw it any shape. And this tool is really primarily designed for use on the mobile because I find if I'm on my cell phone or on my tablet, it can be a little bit tricky to utilize tools like the radius search or the polygon. So I'm going to hit the garbage can and just clear that out. Now, one more thing that I can do to sort of reset myself here is I can click on searches and choose new search. So searches, new search. And what this does is it backtracks me. It zooms me out on the map where I'm sort of hovering over Southern Ontario. And I have no filter selected. But again, our default is freehold. Residential freehold for sale. So if you are someone who trades primarily in condominiums, you'll want to remember to deselect freehold and choose condo and other, and then you can utilize the additional filters that are down here as well. So I'm going to enter into, and I'll just keep freehold and condo together, why not? And I'm going to change my view. I'm going to change my layout to something called table. And table is a lot more familiar, I think, to a lot of our practitioners. The table view allows for you to view your results as you enter in the filters, which I like to do. But it's also displayed in more of a list format. So what I'm going to do is over on the left-hand side, I'm going to fill in some of the filters here. And so I'm going to go to the municipality of Niagara on the Lake. And perhaps I'm looking for some properties in the Niagara on the Lake region that I could utilize as investment properties. And so I'm going to use a field called kitchens total. So I'm just scrolling down through the maps. Now I will make a comment about these filters here. They might be a little bit different than what you're used to. So bedrooms, as an example, I would choose from a scale here to say 3, 4, or 5 plus. If I'm saying 3 or more, I want to select all of those. If I don't select it, it would be looking for a 3-bedroom exactly here. So I'm going to say 4 or 5 plus. Now, bedrooms plus is talking about bedrooms that are below or partially below the grade of the land. And you'll just notice here this results counter. It's letting me know how many listings match my search every time I change my criteria filters, which is kind of interesting. Now, for the kitchens, let's say I want total kitchens. So these could be above grade, below grade. I'm not fussed about it. I'm going to say I want a minimum of 2 kitchens in the property, and then it's going to filter and then show me those results here. Now that I'm finished entering in my criteria, I'm going to click on done, and it leaves me with this list or this table view of properties. Now, perhaps I'd like to filter or sort my results another way. I noticed that these particular results are sorting by lowest price to highest price, but maybe I want to sort by something else like square footage. So I can click on square feet and have it sort that way. Or perhaps I'd like to see the listing sorted by days on market. Ooh, longest to shortest days on market is not a bad way to filter your results. Now, for myself, I tend to like to change my columns on a regular basis. I like to customize things. And maybe you're looking at this and you're going, I much prefer the member single line display. I don't know if I want to keep this photo here. So I'm going to go into columns and I'm going to choose customize down at the bottom. I've got way too many column sets, so I'm going to have to delete them soon. But I'm going to just call this, and I'm going to say, oh, it's close to this single line view. So I'm going to just type that in, single line view, and I'm going to look for the thumbnail. So there's the thumbnail, that's the photo, and I'm going to hit the minus sign. And I can choose, if I'd like to, I could add something else. We do give you the add a column option at the bottom. So maybe I want address instead of, address and municipality at the same time. I'm just going to have address, and I'll get rid of address and municipality. Clean that up a little bit. And perhaps I'd also like to multi-level sort them. So I want to sort first by price, and then my second sort would like to be by bedrooms and bedrooms plus. And I can choose to use it without saving, or I can save it to be used again in the future. I'll just use it without saving for today. Okay, and so now I can see that the sort order has changed quite a bit. The layout of my listings has also changed, and that thumbnail photo is gone. Now, when I'm looking at my results in a list view like this, I can easily select multiple properties to be able to take actions on. Remember when we were in contacts, I mentioned the action button. And so I can see in this screen, I do have an action button in the top right, and I have lots of options here. The first being add to likes. If I click on this, it bulk adds those listings that are selected into my likes list. I can also add them to a manual list. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll say add to list, and I'll choose which client it's for. Today, I'll choose Seymour, and I see that Seymour has a number of lists already going. So I'm going to choose it. If you need to make a new one, you would say new list and then name it appropriately. So I'm going to add these 4 to our list called showings. I can also choose to send these to my client in a chat. Or I can compare them. This is a really great view. I love this view. And it sort of puts them up side by side like you would get in a comparative market analysis. Now, by the way, you can also print this view if you would like to. And of course, email. That's really helpful. So I'm just going to email these listings, and I'm going to send them over to my client Seymour. Now, this is the manual email system. And you'll see down here, there's an automatic check mark. It says also add the listings to the suggestions for any client receiving this email. So remember earlier I mentioned when we were looking in Seymour's profile, the suggestions list. So it's going to add these 4 listings there. Another thing I can do is select the listing format that I want for the preview. So the small photo with 3 lines is what you're seeing down here, or I can choose a large photo with 7 lines, which just, you might find it a little bit more visually appealing. I think it's a great way to view listing thumbnails on a smartphone. Now, your detail view form, you have client full, broker full, or a sheet version of the listing, which is sort of like a condensed version, which we'll get to see when we go into our listing detail view. I'm going to keep my client full as my selection right now. Now, as a realtor, have you ever had a time where maybe you were sending your client 4 houses just like this, and one of them was a really great fit? And so you let your client know in advance, hey, listen, I'm sending you 4 properties, but there's this one. It just has your dream kitchen. I know you're going to fall in love with it straight away. And your client's like, okay, okay. And you send them the 4 listings, and they get your email, and they go, I didn't see it. What do you mean? Which one has the kitchen? Well, we have this feature here called Add Listing Comments, and this allows you to actually go right underneath the listing, and you can say, this is the one with your dream kitchen. Now, I'm sure that someone somewhere is going, that's amazing. So I'm going to hit send. We'll make sure my client knows exactly which listing is the one with the dream kitchen when it's time for them to view them. And if I hop over to Seymour's inbox over here, you can see he has, well, I'll just reset here. a little bit. He does have the invitation to Realm. That was the one that I sent to Ken Parsons. There's the what the invitation email looks like with links to download Realm from the App Store or Google Play Store. And then here's the listings for your review. The automatic text is there. We've got these nice big listings with comments that are prominently displayed and my email signature that's come over. Now, you'll also get to see that there is an unsubscribe that automatically appears in the bottom. It's really important that your clients not press that button unless they really want to unsubscribe from you. I have in my presentation, and I'm hesitant to sort of switch views like right now, but there is an email address that we'll share with you so that you can, if you do get a client who unsubscribes by accident, that they could easily resubscribe to receive emails again. Okay, very similar to the system that you're used to. So that's for my list view. I think everything I'd like to share at this point from this screen. So what I'm going to do is jump into another property. I'm going to open up this one on Butler. Great. And when I'm looking at this particular listing here, I can tell I favorited this in the past. If I, oh, I can also see, look, that it's been suggested to my client see more. Now, I showed you earlier that your clients could write notes on listings and it bookmarks it for you. But did you know that you could actually write notes for yourself as well? Now, I've written this note for me, and this note is kept private. So the listing agent would never know that I'd written a note on their listing or anything like that. We don't utilize that information for reverse prospecting or any of those things. This is private for you. Now, I could utilize this in a number of ways. As someone who is an avid lover of paper, I used to print out all of my listings with me when I would show clients properties, and I would write detailed and thorough notes on the listings and then go back to the office to do all my follow-ups. Now, if I were to go back to selling real estate tomorrow, I don't think I would ever print another listing again simply because of this notes feature, because I can write myself a reminder like ask for home inspection. And this listing is now living on my notes on my dashboard. So if I were to, let's say, just go to the front seat of my car and I pull up my dashboard, I'm able to go and find that saved list called notes, and it's living right here. Okay, and I can see there's a little bit of a delay. There we go. And there's my notes list. And all of the properties that I've written a note on are all easily accessible here in my notes list. And I'm able to do my follow-ups. Now, a good suggestion is just to, make sure you're clearing these out as necessary so you don't really have extra listings sitting around. But I can see all of the properties that I've written notes on here, which is really, really helpful, including 217 Butler Street. And there's my note right there. Now, also included on the listing detail is your attachments. So if I'm looking for things like my Schedule B or feature sheets that have maybe been uploaded by the listing agent, I can find all of those here. Under the links heading, this is where I can generate links to view things like directions. The directions button in Realm works with Google Maps. So if you're already on your mobile, it will allow for you to open it in the Google Maps and begin your navigation straight away. On the mobile, it generates from your location, but on the desktop, it's going to choose your brokerage office. If I wanted to generate an online appointment or use web forms or SkySlip forms to create an offer or something like that, I could do that here. I do want to open up some of these links. So I'm going to use this address guide from HoodQ here and have it fetch some information for me about 217 Butler Street. I love these HoodQ reports for a number of reasons. As someone who I remember when I first started trading in real estate. And initially when you first get started, you've got no listings, don't really know anybody and things like that. And there was one team that I'd called up this really busy agent. I said, "Hey, I noticed that you have more listings than you have agents on your team, and could I do some of your open houses?" And so I was always doing open houses for listings that didn't belong to me. And I would get lots of questions about things like what's around the neighborhood and what are the schools that the children could go to if we were to buy this house. And if I was out of a main city center, they would also be asking me things like, where's the nearest transit station, things like that. And so this address report automatically generates that. And these are all clickable links. So I can learn more about the schools. I can learn more about what's nearby, like the Niagara on the Lake Golf Club is there, which I didn't know until right now. There's some hiking trails that are nearby. So it's really a helpful resource to be able to quickly access this information where maybe you didn't know anything about the address or about the neighborhood, and you can quickly learn it and get yourself up to date with information before you head over. Now, if I am lacking some information on the listing integration, and I need to look in Geo Warehouse, we do offer a link that brings you directly into Geo Warehouse. And what you're going to get when you sign into Geo Warehouse this way is the ability to view the property detail report for that property. We automatically open it. And in here, we have some really great features. So not available in the Realm side, but in the Geo Warehouse side, we're providing you with, when available, residential tax estimates, as well as for commercial properties, the owner's mailing address is built right in. So for whatever reason, I'm not getting the tax estimates for this particular property. But when it's available, okay, it would be here, which is really, really nice. Okay, I'll pull up another property just so you can see what it looks like. Grab that Lee record. Okay, so there's the residential tax estimates. Now, if you're wondering how the tax estimates are calculated, they take in the phased in assessed value from the year that you should be calculating taxes for, with the mill rate or the municipal tax rate for the same year, and it gives you this base amount for taxes. Now, just as a caution, because this is in here, so a lot of the agents at your office are going to want to just copy and paste onto their listing. This tax estimate would not account for any special assessments imposed by the municipality or any additional levies. And so we really want to be clear. You still want to be utilizing the seller's tax bill, but this information is here if you need it for something. So I'm going to promote that as primarily assisting buyers. There's a link here to Altus Data Studio, which, just as a caution, Altus Data Studio tends to trigger a pop-up blocker on most browsers, so you may need to go into your browser's toolbar to allow it. But once it's loaded in, Altus Data Studio gives you access to new home construction projects in the Greater Golden Horseshoe, as well as commercial sales records in the Greater Golden Horseshoe. When we generate the Altus Data Studio from a listing, it automatically looks within 2 kilometers of the subject property. But if I wanted to, I can click and drag and reposition that. And I start to see there are some new home developments that are nearby. If you click on the cluster, it would show you what those projects are. And you could, I see these ones are coming soon, so there's not really, here's an active one. If you click on the little arrow, it'll give you some additional details. Depending on the property type, will really change what kind of information you're getting on the property. But I can see, various models that might be available at this particular project, and I can see a picture of the model home. Sometimes with condominiums, you can even see things like floor plans, floor plates, and of course, you can always decide, you know what, I think I'd like to start from scratch instead. And you can go into your filters and start looking for things on your own as well. Now, Altus Data Studio is also accessible for you from your tools menu. So if I were to come in through this Altus group link over here, um, I would click on residential new home projects. And perhaps I'm looking in the greater Golden Horseshoe and I'm in the Niagara region and I'm looking for a high rise. So I'm going to say apartment. There's also single family and townhouse options. I'm going to choose apartment here and just see what I get. I'm going to click on search. Okay, and here's a list of new home constructions that would likely be condominium apartments. And I can click on the record to learn more about them, or even from that list view, I can choose to map my results as well. Okay, so you might want to map your results and you can click around and see all of the different options that are accessible to you, which is really neat. Okay. Fantastic. So I'm going to close that down. That's your Altus Data Studio. It's something that you might want to spend some time learning how to use once you get your access, if it's not something that you're already using. Now, if I needed to purchase a report, I could always use the property line store as well. Now, I'm going to scroll down through the listing information here to some neat functions that exist within the realm listing. And you might be looking at this going, wow, she's scrolling for a long, long time. And so I do want to let you know there's a compact listing view that I'll return to. All right. So in this map area, if I wanted to, I can grab this little yellow guy and go down for the street view and start to get a feel for the area. And oh, wow, that's really nice and close to the water, which is nice. Maybe I want to travel around. Or another option is this other tab here called Recent Sales. The Recent Sales tab looks over the last 2 years and sorts the listings by nearest to farthest away from the subject property, so you can quickly find possibly comparable transactions that have happened. If you wanted to see any of these results, you would simply click on the item and we would open the listing in a new tab. What a beautiful home. I'm going to go back. When I click on back, oh, I was in some sort of view there. Don't know what I've done now. I'm going, how did I get out of that workflow? Now, here's what's great about Realm. I go to my house, to the dashboard. There's my listing on Butler. And so I'm really happy to just be able to pull that up so quickly. Now, you got to see all the scrolling, but I want you to see the compact view. So right beside my action button, so not under the action button, but beside it, I have a gear icon. This is my settings. And so I'm going to change this view from broker full to broker full sheet. I get this beautiful compact view. Isn't that nice? It's nice and printable as well. Okay, if I was going to print. Now, we also have something really interesting in our system, which is the history of a property. So when I click on history, I'm able to view, any changes that might have happened on the listing. We would highlight those changes so that you're aware of them. And then down below, we would be able to see who made the changes and what they changed when they went in and did an edit. So this is really nice. And this is accessible not just to board staff, but also to users. So what we're going to do is I'm going to quickly show you how to save a search, and then we're going to take a break. So I'm going to click on the big search. Okay, we have this table view here. I can change my layout, by the way, anytime. So I'm going to just jump into a consumer view. Doesn't matter, layout doesn't change anything. And I want to save this search. So I'm going to click on searches and save search. Searches and save search. And I'm going to get ready to name it. So this is very similar to your auto email, okay? Just like your auto email. And I'm gonna name my search Niagara on the Lake, properties, oops. And I'm gonna save this for my client Seymour. And when I choose my client's name, you'll get to see that there's two sets of notifications, notifications for me and notifications for my client. So I'll decide in this example, I would like to be notified on the app when there is a match for this search, and I'd like to be notified by email once a day. And for my client, he's let me know he's going to be using the app, so I'll turn those notifications on for him. And for email, he said, you know, Ashley, I prefer to be notified in real time. So I'm going to put a check mark there and choose real time notifications. Now, if there's anybody else that needs to be receiving these emails, I can always add them into this box up to 20 addresses and choose the frequency right above. Down below, I'll choose my listing format. I like the large photo with 7 lines. And then I might choose some additional settings. Here's one I especially love: save as Seymour Homes default search. And that way, when he signs in, the very first thing he's going to see are listings that match this criteria. Isn't that great? I'm going to click on save. And we are going to take a break. When we come back, I'll show you how to create an offer on a listing. And my slide here, I'm going to get to sharing my slide with you. I have a break slide. We're gonna come back at an odd time, okay? But we're gonna come back at 10:32. Just want to make sure everyone's got enough time to do whatever they need to do on the break. So please return, and we will resume our session at 10:32. Okay, everyone. I'm just gonna mute some microphones that I see that are off mute. Again, just a reminder that if you do have questions, I saw lots come through the chat, but if you do have questions and you want to unmute yourself and ask your questions, you're absolutely welcome to do that as well. This is really, your time as much as it is mine. It's more for you. And we're going to jump into an introduction to sky slope forms. I'm just going to make sure that I'm still all signed in and everything here. Great. Okay. So how's the information coming along so far? Any sort of burning questions, pressing questions? I'll encourage you to ask, and we're available. I'll say, got questions for your board after today. They know where to find us, and so we want to make sure you have all the information that you need. Okay, so welcome back from the break, everyone. Thank you so much for your time and attention this morning. We're going to dive into an introduction to SkySlope forms and SkySlope DigiSign. There is a paid version of SkySlope that is a lot of brokerages are using. And so if your brokerage is using the SkySlope for your transactions, and you want to be able to integrate that with SkySlope Forms and SkySlope DigiSign, you absolutely can do that. It's something that SkySlope would help you with. And so as part of your onboarding process, you might want to reach out to SkySlope and let them know that you're a PropTx user, etc. Now, SkySlope itself operates using a very simple and straightforward workflow. It helps you to create a file. In web forms, you would call that a transaction. So you create a file or a transaction from a listing or from scratch. You'll choose your forms, fill them out, and then put them in an envelope and send them off for electronic signing. And SkySlope does a really good job of pushing you right through that workflow. So start to finish, it's pretty seamless. So we're gonna take a look at it together. So SkySlope Forms is accessible for you on the tools.proptex.ca/proptex2 URL. That is your PropTex tools page. And if you scroll down, you'll be able to click on SkySlope Forms. Now, SkySlope Forms jumps you into the digital forms provider. Now, my account mimics that of a broker of record. And so brokers of record, office administrators that have this account level, you'll be able to come in and see all of the files associated with your brokerage. You'll also be able to filter to see just your files or just your transactions. And then something really interesting about SkySlope is that there's no delete, there's only archive. So if you need to pull something that you deleted by accident, you can go and grab it out of the archive. And I know for myself, I try to stuff everything over into the archive and keep my account as clean as possible. So I'll leave it to you to how you like to manage it, but that's a very popular question. Where's the delete button? And the answer is there isn't one. You'll just simply archive stuff you don't want sitting on your dashboard anymore. Now, when you get access to the PropTech system, I'm going to encourage you to come in and set up your account. There are some onboarding screens that you will go through as a PropTech user, and I'm just I don't think I have the onboarding screens with me, but you'll be asked to do a number of things. So I'm going to click on user profile for myself. What we want you to do is go through and make sure your information is correct. We'll be bringing this over from your membership records, and so we just want to make sure if something's missing that you can program it. Now, as far as agent license or agent MLS code, you do not need to put that information in there, but do fill out things like your phone number, your email address, things like that. Your professional organization name will be there, as well as, your brokerage information. Okay, so that'll be your brokerage information, brokerage phone number, all of that great stuff. Now, under the next tab over is something called My Team. If you're part of a team, you might want to utilize that. I'm going to jump over to libraries. When you go through the onboarding screen, one of the things that we'll do is we'll show you a forms library. And we will automatically select this one that says PropTx dash OREA, TREB, CLAR, LSTAR. Of course, NAR and OREB and Korea and all these other boards are going to be added in. But essentially, everything that you need from the OREA standard forms, plus the residential standard lease for Ontario, the RICO information guides, all of that stuff is in this PropTx-OREA library. And that's the only library that I recommend you're adding. There is a general OREA library that you might be tempted to add. And I'm going to discourage adding it because the OREA library that's in here automatically is not programmed. So it will be a little bit harder for you to use those forms. And the other thing is that it logs you out of the system like every 8 hours when you're using those forms. And so the members that have been using that forms library, I can always know straight away with the complaints that they give me. So we have all automatically added the PropTx one. Please do not add additional libraries. That is my TED Talk. Thank you so much for coming. Now I'm going to go over to the next tab here, which is preferences. So every once in a while, I run into realtors or brokerages who say, well, that's cool and everything that DigiSign is included, but I'm a DocuSign user. And I'll be honest, I was a DocuSign user before. And then I started using Authentisign because that was what we were offering, and it was included for free. And then when PropTx moved over to the SkySlope Forms DigiSign, I got right on board with that. So I don't pay for DocuSign anymore. But if you're someone who would prefer to continue paying for DocuSign and you're a DocuSign user, you can choose that to be integrated into your forms workflow instead. Now I'm going to keep this DigiSign here because, in real estate, I don't think there's a whole lot of opportunity for you to get stuff for free. You pay for so many things. So if I can avoid picking up a subscription service or a monthly cost for something, I'm all about that. So I'm going to keep my DigiSign library here. Now, under the heading, and I'm just going sort of right to left at the top, there is a button called apps at the top. And it shows me SkySlope, offers, and DigiSign. If you have the paid SkySlope for your brokerage management, you can integrate it here. So when you click on SkySlope, it brings you into your brokerage account. For everybody else, if you click on this, it's really just going to be like, oh, you have to sign in. Why? Because it's looking for a service that you don't have at this point. So you'll use the apps feature to toggle between SkySlope Forms, SkySlope Offers, and DigiSign. Okay. Then we have a new area, buyer agreements. You don't really need to do anything specific in here. This is just to encourage, because SkySlope Forms is an American company, it's to encourage buyer agency. There's a lot of states that don't have buyer agency, and so they've created this extra area to encourage working with buyers. So don't be tripped up by that. You don't really need anything in there. Clauses. You have an area for my clauses and then brokerage clauses. So if you have your own custom clauses that you would like to add, you can click on the add new clauses option. This is similar to your personal clauses or custom clauses that you would use in other systems like web forms. And then we have the brokerage clauses. So if there's a clause that you would like to share with your entire brokerage, you can click on add new clause. And it says, will this be a brokerage clause? So I'm going to toggle on to say, yes, it is. And yes, to share it with everyone in my brokerage. And I'm going to say continue here. And I might say, This is a clause for rental items, or maybe it's our Schedule B interest clause. And I'll just title it. So I'll say it's a Schedule B, and I'll put the body text in here. Okay. And that would be like, a beautifully attractive, well-written clause. So I'm going to say create. And now this clause is available. It'll be available for members of my brokerage to be able to use that, okay, when it appears. Now, the next one is browse libraries. So this is a way if you're just quickly looking for a form to pull it up. Like, let's say you're going, oh, you know what? I want to take a look at the confirmation of cooperation quickly. You can come in here and open up that form. Now, if I click on it once, I have the ability to preview it and say, oh, when was it revised again? Oh yeah, March 2024. That's the one that's most current. Just maybe I'm checking some other documents. I can add it to a file from here if I would like, or I can carry on with my life. Then you have your templates. And templates allows for you to create either personal templates for yourself or brokerage templates to be able to have a collection of forms that you want to share with your office in the future. So create templates. That's what I'll do just now. And you can decide what type of template you want to be using. And so what I'll do is I'll do a sample one for a seller. And I'm going to say next. Now it wants to know what we should name this template. And let's say this is going to be a seller condo template. So that's what I'll call it, seller condo template. And I can decide if I want this to be just for my own personal use or if I want it to be shared with the entire brokerage. If I have brokerages in multiple regions, I might specifically specify that, or I'll just say share with everyone in my brokerage. Do I want to share it with a group? No, I'm going to say continue. Now, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to search for some forms. So I'm going to grab my form 200. On the PropTx system, we allow for a plus minus adjustment on commissions that are offered to a cooperating brokerage. And so that's the modification if you're wondering the difference between 200 and 200A. I will just make a mention that the PropTx MLS rules are under review, so you can expect more communication on those as in the coming months. And so I've got that form added in. Now, in addition to the 200A, I might like a data form, but I'm going to show you how you can generate an MLS data information form from Add Edit in a little while. So I'm going to skip that one for now. But let's say I just have this listing agreement. Let's just be really compliance-minded here, and I'm going to put in a FinTrack form. Some of you are going, don't forget FinTrack. And I should probably have a RICO information guide or something like that. Now there's the RICO information guide, the regular and the commercial versions. I'm going to go ahead and add the regular one, and I'll say continue. So this is my template. And I'm able to, utilize, I could fill in parts of this information to be used later if I would like to have it pre-filled. So something like my brokerage information is going to be the same every time. Now that should be auto feeding from your contact card, but mine is a little bit more unique because I can create forms for anyone. Now I'm just going to get out of there and you'll see that template is saved. Now, if I were to go into files, I've got the ability to create a file. And let's say we're coming in and we're doing a signing. Now, for the brokers and office administrators with the appropriate account permissions, you will be able to create a file for yourself or for another salesperson in the office, AKA impersonate for this service. Oh, and I don't want to do that for another person right now. So I'm going to go back to my name. Thank you. And I'm going to choose what type of representation this is. Now you'll notice if I say this is for a buyer, only buyer templates appear down at the bottom. If I say that this is for a seller, only my seller templates appear at the bottom. Okay, or for a tenant, I got a tenant template. So that's one way of filtering. The next thing I'm going to do is just identify who I'm working with here. So I'm going to say I'm working with Seymour Homes, and I'll start to type in Seymour's email. And I see that SkySlope remembers I've worked with Seymour before, and I'm able to autofill it. And there's no property at this point in time. So I'd be filling everything in manually and then choosing my information. Now we're going to pretend there's no property yet. We're just going to send one document off very quickly, and that's going to be the RICO information guide. So I've selected the title to be my primary client's name, but I can also type into this free form text box, and I might just call it like RICO guide. And I know that I believe I have the RICO guide in this template here. So I'm going to choose this buyer freehold offer template and say create. So in this screen, what I'll do is I'll select which forms I want to fill in. I can choose to upload forms from my computer if necessary, or I can add additional forms. If I go, oh no, my FinTrack isn't in here, I can click on add forms and add a 630. Next, I'm going to say fill and send. Fill and send brings me to the next screen in the workflow. So we've gone from selecting forms or creating file to choose your form and fill it out. So I've selected the RICO information guide, and I'm just going to jump down to page 13 of this 13-page guide. I'm going to fill it out with my information. I'll say it's for today, and I'll fill in my client's information, and I'm ready to send this off. So I'm going to say prepare signature. So again, moving straight away into the next area of the workflow. I'm identifying who needs to sign and saying next here. I'm just going to jump again down to page 13. Now, just like any of the signing tools or any of the e-signature platforms that you might use, we're focusing on signing blocks and drawing tools here. The functionality of SkySlope DigiSign is single click on the tool that you want and single click on the screen, and it's going to drop that signature block there for you. I can change who the tools belong to up at the top of the screen here, like changing to Seymour. Now, when I click on the screen, it drops his signature block. I can deselect by clicking on the block again. So as I'm moving around on the screen, it's not creating a problem for me. I'm actually just going to move that over because I put it in the wrong spot. And then date, single click on the date, single click on the form. That's going to leave an auto date wherever this is sitting, okay, an auto date. Now, if I had made a mistake, I can always use the drop down here to change who it belongs to, but I'm actually satisfied with this. So I'm going to go ahead and click on send at the bottom, send, and off it is ready to go. RICO guide. Now you got to see, I've signed in a Seymour, but if I'm on a signature on a form, I have this blue sign now button. So I'm actually going to click on that sign now. And I can say, I agree to the terms. And I'll choose start, and it's going to drop me down to the next place where I need to sign. And when I click on the signature block, I have the option of choosing a font to represent my name, or I can choose to draw my own signature. I'm just going to say happy because we're happy today. And I can say this is going to be my signature. Now for you in future, you can say save this as my default, but I'm going to leave mine alone because I am a trainer and I have to keep my defaults clean. So I'm going to say I'm finished and then done. Now every time someone signed, so let's say you're not all the way finished, it does keep track who signed when, what's the status right now. So I can see it's been signed by one of two of us. And as long as the signing's not complete, I have the ability to correct the envelope. So let's say I was just in there and I go, oh no, I made a terrible error. I can click on the little dots and then say correct envelope, or I can say cancel it and just destroy the link that's sitting in my client's email. Now, by the way, if I'm on my dashboard, my most recent files, there's that Seymour Rico guide. There's the 5 forms included in that file, and then the one signing associated with it. So if I click on the envelope there, it brings me into the back end of the signing. When the signing's complete, this button will also allow me to do things like download the certificate, which isn't available right now. Now I'm just going to interrupt our workflow massively. I'm going to close SkySlope. And I'm actually going to go right back into Realm. And it's okay that it wants me to sign back in, no problem. And the reason why I'm doing this is because there's another way that you can work on paperwork or start a file. And it doesn't need to be from within SkySlope. You might be actually looking at a listing and you're going, awesome. Oh, that beautiful house on Gate Street sold. Thought it was available when we were looking at it before. My hopes and dreams have been dashed. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this house on Butler. We're going to make an offer on this house. And remember, I was in the compact view earlier. It actually kept that for me. It's not interesting. Now, I try to always switch back to the full view, but I still had access to my links and everything there. Now, Schedule B, I've got to download this, so I'm going to save it to, the desktop on my computer. Let me go to the desktop. Just call it something easily identifiable. Save over whatever Schedule B I have saved there already. Yes, replace it. And now I'm ready. So I've saved my Schedule B, and now I'm ready to start some forms. So I'm going to click on this link here, SkySlope Forms, right from the MLS listing. And it brings me into the file workflow. So just like we saw earlier, who's the file owner, who's the client? I'm going to be helping a buyer here. I'll put my client's information in. So I've got Seymour, and it remembers him. So I can click on his name. If I have more than one buyer, I can choose this option, add additional contact, and you just add each person as necessary. If the person is a company, you'll select the client as a company, trust, or other entity, and you can put in the organization name and the representative's name and email. Is there a property yet? This time it's all filled in because it's coming from the MLS system. And it has auto named my file by the address. I can also say primary client, or I can do a combination thereof. And again, choosing my template. So this could be the same freehold offer template I was working with earlier, or maybe I want to use one from my brokerage because maybe my brokerage has already added clauses and things like that for me to the template. So I'm going to choose this basic offer forms and say create. Now, this is from my brokerage, this template here. And so I'm just going to look in and make sure my brokerage has all the forms that I want. And I bet they do. So I'm going to choose this 100 and this 320. And my Schedule B. Now, if I want to upload my Schedule B into this file, I'm going to click on Upload Documents here and upload again. And I'll go to my desktop, which is where I happen to save it. And there it is, Schedule B, open. Lovely. Now it's sitting here in my file. So I'm going to select that Schedule B by clicking on it. And same workflow as before, I'm going to click on Fill and Send. Now, a bunch of this information is going to be automatically populated for me. It's filled in my buyer's name, the seller's names come over from the listing, the address is there, and I can quickly start to fill out some of my forms. And of course, just a reminder that this is for example only, and it's not necessarily how your form should be filled in. So I'm going to fill these forms out wrong intentionally, just so it's not misconstrued ever as advice. And so I see there's a bunch of stuff that's coming over, and I can choose things like my town and what have you. My legal description's filled in quite nicely. Perhaps we'll put in an offer for a certain price here. And a deposit. Now, actually, this is a fun fact. I learned recently that the deposit insurance has increased to $200,000. That's a fun thing to know. Carrying on, it's brought over the chattels for me. And, if there's rental items, those will be brought over as well, which is really nice. So filled in nicely. And we're just going to pretend that I filled all of this in really beautifully. There's the clauses that were already on my offer because my brokerage put them on the template. Isn't that neat? Now, of course, if I want to add my own clauses or make any edits, all I need to do is click in here. And this would allow me to do things like customize my condition expiry dates on the 12th. Oh, on the 12th of July. And I can also add some additional clauses. Now, here's something that's interesting. This gray portion is highlighted that way because it's starting now on a new page. So any clauses that I add here, maybe I want to add some clauses. Those would also be in gray, okay, because they're text wrapping onto the second page of the schedule. And I've added those in here nice and simply. And now I have my schedule. Now this is not filled in for me, and I could have maybe filled it in before I uploaded it. But my drawing tools to write on this schedule are in the next screen in the DigiSign platform. So I'm going to say prepare signature. And, again, it's preparing to find out who needs to be signing this. Is it me? Is it my buyer, etc. And now it's ready to create an envelope. Beautiful. It's brought me into the next screen as expected. And it's pre-programmed, so it's already putting in initials and signature blocks and all of that great stuff for myself and for my client in the appropriate placements. Always double check this, by the way, because sometimes it might have you sign something that's not needed yet. But for the most part, they've done a really great job here with the programming. And here is my schedule. Now I'm going to use a different tool than what I've used previously, and that is the text field. So I'm going to single click on text field and single click down here. And when this text field comes over, it's gray. It's not blue. It's not orange. This is on a read only. Read only means what it sounds like. You can only read it. It's not going to do anything else. Now, every time I single click on the form, it does leave a text box there. And so what you want to be mindful of is if you are a clicker like I am, I tend to click on the screen an awful lot. I will leave signature blocks all over the place. So if you're like me and you click on your screen a lot when you're using the computer, you might want to remember to deselect the field before you start clicking around. Now, I'm going to click back in there and use my buyer. Now I can double click in here to type, or I can click in the field on the left and type over there. I'm going to put in my buyer's name. Put the seller's name. Now I don't remember the seller's name, so I'm going to say seller Susan seller Susan. And okay, you just would put each text box and you're filling them out as you go. Now, if you're wondering if there is a way to change the font size, the way to change the font size is by utilizing the sizing handles on the text box. So if I need my font to be really, really giant, I'm going to make my text box big, but just be mindful of keeping everything the same size, which is why I tend to gravitate towards not really changing the size of my boxes at all, and going with the default font size, which is already there. So I'm satisfied with this for now. I know it's incomplete. So if you have incorrect offer anxiety like me, I apologize in advance. I'm just going to send it off. But I think every time I demo anything in SkySlope and I don't fill out my forms, I do feel like, oh no, it's an error. And I think that's just my, internal perfectionist. So again, because I'm signed on, I can say sign now and complete it. And for your clients, I'll just go back to Seymour's email here. There we go. I just want you to see what it looks like from the client's perspective. So they would be able to say, get started. And very similar functionality as what you had. They're going to make an agreement. They're coming in and seeing everything filled in. They're going to click, select their font style or draw their signature as they prefer. And every time they click, it just jumps down to the next area. So similar functionality to other eSignature platforms. And when they're done, they can say finish signing and see how those text boxes are locked. There's no editing going on here. So finish, and that's the read only, which is the default, okay, which is really, really nice. Okay, and if I'm also signing it, which I hadn't done yet, you'll be able to see that once it's complete, there are certain things I can't do any longer, like correct the envelope or reset it, but I do have the ability to download my documents. Now you can't see my personal email, but it does automatically email you everything. So this is a completed signing, so I have the ability to download the certificate, download the envelope as one single PDF, or I can download each individual PDF into a zip file, which I would recommend if you have, your agency documents in with your offer paperwork for some reason. So I'm going to reset just by clicking on files and just say, hey, just a reminder, this is your electronic forms and electronic signature platform, SkySlope Forms. And again, you're accessing that from your PropTx tools page. Now, one last module that we're going to go into is talking about the ad edit system, the listings maintenance tool. And ad edit is the one place where everyone goes to load their listings in. So whether when the choice becomes available, you choose that you would like to stick with Realm or you'd like to use the PropTx version of Matrix, regardless of what system you choose, we only have one database. And so our listings maintenance, our ad edit system is one place where PropTx users, partner boards, and the ITSO feed pushes listings through. And the ITSO feed is going to come through until your cutover date. And you can talk to your board about, when that's going to be. And then any interboard listings. So if you're loading listings onto our system from neighboring boards or any of the other user boards are interboarding, those all go into one place and they all feed out to the PropTx MLS system, and you would be choosing the front end that you're accessing from. So you'd either access from Matrix or access from Realm, but it's one database where we load everything. Now for the brokers of record, you have your ad edit permissions manager. And this is where you get complete control to decide which salespeople, which office administrators have the ability to go in and add listings, edit listings, report transactions. You get to choose. There's a number of different permission levels. There's a few that I'm going to touch on. So I'm going to start off with full firm. So full firm, this would be something that would go to a broker of record, an office manager, an office administrator. And this person would have the ability to add new, edit existing, report transactions on listings for the entire brokerage. So even if you have multiple branches, this is someone who can manage listings at every level at every location. A full office permission is again, add, edit, report transactions. And this would be for listings at that specific branch. So you might have someone in your St. Catharines office who's able to manage listings for the St. Catharines branch. But if you've also got an office in Port Colborne, they can't go in and edit or add listings for Port Colborne agents. Full self, this one, oh, the screen's not changing. Okay, thank you, thank you. Let me make sure. I'm gonna pause the share and then I'm gonna stop the share and then reshare. Let's go back there. Okay. You should be able to see my permissions now. So full firm is the entire brokerage. Full office is just that branch. And thank you, John. And your full self. So full self, this is what I would be giving to, I'm going to call it responsible agents. Okay. So salespeople who you can trust them to go in and add their own, edit existing, and report their transactions. You would give those people full self. They won't be able to edit for anybody else, just themselves. And then sometimes what I find is there's a lot of brokers who say, you know what, I'm okay with my agents adding and editing their own listings. But when it comes to reporting transactions and things like that, I want to make sure I'm getting their paperwork. So actually, I'm not going to let them go in and report their own sales. Those people, I'm going to put them on a restricted level. So you'll see we've got restricted for the firm, office, and self. So it depends on, maybe I let my front desk admins add and edit listings, but they don't have the ability to report transactions, as an example. Extras would be for being able to do things like adding photos and listing attachments or accessing drafts, but you wouldn't be able to add a listing or edit a listing. And I see a question that's coming from Paula saying, are cancellations still restricted to admins and brokers of records managers? And the answer is absolutely. Only the brokerage has the ability to terminate a listing on our system. So that's a permission that would only be accessible to those user types that you've specified there. Great question. Now your drafts, this is something that is newer, and drafts is the ability for a salesperson to go in, they can load a draft, or an office admin can go in and load a draft, but they don't have the ability to hit submit on that listing. They're basically just able to go in, fill out all of the listing details, but someone else has to look it over and make sure that's correct before they hit submit. And then none is no access. And so that will be your experience initially when you get onboarded to PropTx and you start signing in. You're not going to have the ability to go in and edit or manage any of the listings that are in there, because we're bringing your listings over from the ITSO feed. So until the cutover date, which again, those dates and timelines are to be communicated through NAR at the appropriate time. Once everything's firm and they know exactly when that's going to be happening, they'll let you know, and then you can plan accordingly. And then once you have access to Ad Edit, it would be a good idea to start loading your listings into that system. Will it ever be changed about the cancellations? No. The reason being, and this is more so, a little bit of my compliance brain, but the listing contract belongs to the brokerage. And so I can't foresee a time where we would give the access to the salesperson to terminate the listing, because it would be the brokerage that um, is doing that. So I'm just going to go back into reshare with my handy internet tools. There we go. Okay. So you should be able to see my tools page, and the tools page is where I'll find my access to add, edit listing. And in our ad edit system, when you get your access, I would encourage you to practice loading listings. And the way that we practice loading listings is by opening something called training mode. So I'm going to click on training mode right now, and I'm going to close the tab that was behind me. Now, this ad edit practice area, sometimes it's a little finicky because it exists on a stage server. So it's a pretend ad edit. It's not the real ad edit, but there's some things that I want you to see. So in real life, when you get onto this ad listing page, this is where you can start to search by address, by owner name, property identification number, or ARN, assessment roll number. And you can start to preload listing information from the land registry offices. Now, because I'm in training mode, I don't have that direct link that's available right now. But what will happen is you choose your address, and we start to pre-populate some of these fields here. You'll notice that the fields in our system are marked by an asterisk that are mandatory. And so I'm just going to fill out certain things like your member name will be locked unless you are an office admin or a broker of record. So you can choose members from your office. Property class and property type, I'll fill those in. I'll put in the address. Now, I would be doing this manually for a property that's maybe not registered in our system as of yet. But for the most part, for you, let me do a different address. You're going to be doing residential resale, and you can load the information from land registry. This is located in Niagara region, and it's in the municipality of Niagara Falls. Now, again, those communities are going to be coming over in short time. Your postal code will also autofill, which makes things a heck of a lot easier, right? When it automatically comes in, you don't need to look it up. So just for fun, I'm going to click on create, and this would generate a new draft. And in the draft mode, I have a draft number that's sitting up at the top there. I also have a number of tabs that I can navigate through to fill out information on that listing. You'll get to see that all of our mandatory fields are marked with an asterisk. And if you're not sure how to fill out a particular field or what it's directing you to do, is you would hover over the information icon. Now, outside of this screen, which is really quite fulsome, I'm just going to go back out of here. Let's say I needed to access my draft a little bit later. I also have a drafts tab. So at the brokerage level, you would be able to filter drafts by agent name, MLS number, property address. And so I have a draft that's sitting right here at 11 Blue Nose, which I can open just by simply clicking on it. So this one did bring over quite a lot of information. I have the assessment roll number and PIN here. This is what it would look like if you had utilized the land registry autofill. It autofills things like your postal code, and we also bring over your map PIN, and we automatically map your property's location. Now, one thing I strongly recommend doing is zooming out on your map and making sure that your property has been mapped in the correct place. It's possible that there are multiples of the same municipal address, or if there's an error with the PIN number or something like that, especially new construction properties or land records have a tendency to mismap. And so I want to be really clear by saying always, always, always double, triple, quadruple check your map pin so that we know that it's located in the right place. Now, the reason for that is even more important with Realm. You noticed that earlier when I was searching, my map was kind of on in the background all the time. It's very different than specifically choosing a map search versus staying 100% criteria based. So we want to make sure our map is always correct because Realm is reading that data in the background. Amounts and dates. Some of the fields look a little bit different here. So you'll notice that we have these bubbles. And so you might choose to make selections. Each of the fields will tell you how many options you have up to things like that. We also have our waterfront page. So if you were to, let's say on the front, you say, yes, it's a waterfront property, then a bunch of fields inside of waterfront become also mandatory for you to fill in. So it's sort of responsive in that way. So I'm just going to say, no, it's not a waterfront. So I don't have to fill all those in. Now for your interior, your rooms, you can identify, total number of rooms or rooms plus, and then your bedrooms. And your washrooms will be teased out here. You can choose to say how many washrooms you have with a certain number of pieces on which level of the property. Washroom number and number of pieces is mandatory, but the level code is not. And the reason is you might have multiple of the same number of pieces, but they're spread out throughout the house and different ways that you might choose to identify washrooms. Now, if you're not sure about a field, again, we have really great field help. One that I find gets, maybe selected wrong a lot is the family room. So if I hover over the information icon, it's very clear by saying, does the property have a family room at grade level or above? A room in the basement doesn't apply. So I know not to count a room in the basement as a family room. So I think that's really, really helpful. Now, when it comes down to rooms details, you can have up to 12 rooms. So I would start to fill in and then I would say add another room. Now, one thing that's different between the PropTx MLS service and your system is that when you're loading in your listings, you're going to put your measurements in meters. Okay, so measuring in centimeters or meters is a great practice to start doing maybe sooner than later as you're getting used to the system. Now, we do have a conversion when you're viewing the listing, you can switch it from meters to feet, but when it's entered, we want it to be entered in meters. So that's a change that you should be aware of. Now, when it comes to the comments, we do allow up to 2,000 characters in the remarks for clients or client remarks field. We also have some fields that are new to you, like extras, inclusions, exclusions, and rental items. The rental items, exclusions, and inclusions, you might have noticed that some of those transferred over to my offer paperwork today. So inclusions, exclusions, and rental items, if they're built in, they will transfer over onto your offers. And the remarks for brokerages, these fields would be for anything that is private that shouldn't be seen by the public. So any comments that sound like call me and things like that, at this point in time, those types of remarks are only allowed in the remarks for brokerage field. And just, another reminder that the rules are presently being reviewed. So we'll all have an opportunity to relearn them together. All right, so I'm gonna type in my phone number here. And I just want to, again, remind the commission to cooperating brokerage field. I made a mention that we do allow for a plus minus adjustment. And so if I were to say something like plus $3,000 if sold by June 12th, I could do that. If you run out of room here, you would continue those remarks in the field, remarks for brokerages. And then when it comes to open house information, this open house field here is specifically pertaining to a broker open house. So when I'm ready to add my open house information, there is another way that I can do that under the heading edit listing, and I will circle back and let you know where that is. Now, one field change that I've noticed members on your current system might say, oh, hang on, you have a virtual tour and you have like a branded one and a non-branded one. We have a similar functionality, but it's a little different. So as far as field labels go, so virtual tour URL would be your unbranded. And then we have something else called alternate feature sheet URL. This is where you can put any of your branded links, and that includes your branded virtual tour or any other branded uh, videos promoting the property that you might want to put there. Photos, you can presently upload 40 photos, but that is being reprogrammed. So we're going to be allowing 50 photos to be uploaded. So watch for that change in the coming weeks and months. Attachments, you can have up to 5 megabytes per attachment. So if you want to upload things like your schedules, your floor plans, a home inspection summary, it really allows for quite a lot of information to go in there. Now, here's a favorite of mine is this button up here at the top that says validate. So when I click on validate, what it does is it scans through my entire listing to look for any fields that I might have missed. And I can see in the tab amounts and dates, I have missed the contract commencement date. So I would have to fill that in to be able to load this listing. So I'm going to choose today as my contract commencement date. And right before I hit submit, I don't want to quite do that yet. I need an MLS data information form. So I'm going to go up to the top here, this button that says preview, and then I'll say generate. And what we do is we take everything in your listing draft and we generate it into an MLS data information form, and it includes all of the information we filled out on the listing, and the seller can sign it. Now, if I've got a salesperson that I want to share access to this draft mode, but I don't necessarily want them loading their own listings, then what I'll do is I'll give them the permission to use the drafts so that they can generate this, but they wouldn't be able to actually hit submit on that listing, which is kind of neat. I'm going to hit the X button here. Now we have an autosave. It's been running the entire time. And these drafts, if we were to save them, can stay for up to, I'm going to hit submit here, up to 30 days. Now submit, if I want to submit this property, it's saying, hey, go to the map and check your map location. You'll see that we encourage that quite a bit. I'm going to hit submit because I know my listing is mapped properly because I did already check. And now my draft number has transferred over and I have an MLS number instead. Now this 11 Blue Nose lane, I can always find by going to edit listings and searching it, but I can also go to the tab called actives. And this is where I'd be able to see all of the active listings in my brokerage, or if they're my listings, and it would just be my listings if I'm a salesperson. Now, I mentioned about the open houses. So now that my listing's been submitted, I can click on the blue circle over here, and I see there is an option to add an open house down at the bottom. You can also do the same thing in the edit listing tab, which I just happen to also have this here. Okay, but you can also search by MLS number and click on open house in the edit listing tab, and it would bring you over to the PropTx open house tool. I don't have any listings, so it knows that, but I would click on add open house, and then you can put in your open house details for that particular property. Okay, so that's either edit listing, open house, or from the actives page, click on the blue circle and choose open house there. You can also, from the active listings or the edit listing page, choose to do things like clone the listing, change the status of the listing, manage its photos and documents. Now, just for fun, let's go in and change the status of this listing. We can choose to change the status to sold, sold conditional with an escape clause, suspended, or terminated. Again, just going back to the question that came in earlier from Paula that terminated is only going to be there for brokerage staff. In fact, I find sometimes salespeople think that they will have terminated, and when they notice it's not there, they'll choose another option like suspended. So just watch for that. It tends to become problematic for compliance reasons. And I see another question says, are those public open houses or broker slash agent ones? So when we're going to the open house tool, that is for your public open houses. The broker open houses are the ones that are in the actual listing. So I'm just gonna demo that quick. So blue circle, open house. This is your public open house information that looks like this one, the PropTx open house tool. If I'm talking broker opens, I'm going to click on my listing record and go to the page that says other, and I have the broker open house information here. So if I'm in the listing, it's for, think in the listing, the open house is in the system. Out of the listing, the open house is out of the system, meaning it's on the public websites. And that's a good way to differentiate that. Oh yeah, you remember in Stratus, you could only add it from your agent profile. Yeah, so we tried to simplify it a little bit. You can still go in to manage my profile and do it that way, but we've tied it into the add edit module so that it's less of a pain in the butt, as you wrote. Okay, so I am going to update the status of this listing by clicking on the blue circle, and I'm going to click on change status, and I'll choose the status I'm changing it to. I'm going to choose sold. And I'm going to start by entering in the close price. So even though the property is not closed yet, it's, you know, pending. I will put in the price that we agreed to sell it for, and I don't know what it's listed at, so we're just going to say 580. And then sold slash leased date. It has to be today because that's also our contract date. So it's kind of restricting us a little bit there. And then my closed date. When does the property close? Let's say it closes end of July, and I'll put in my cooperating brokerage information and then choose the salesperson. So if you're looking for a, let's say, member brokerage, I can start to type in the name of the brokerage that I'm looking for, and then I can filter by phone number or location, and then I can go in here and I can choose the salesperson's name. So I have to know, what brokerage they work at and their name. For now, if it's an interboard, I would say it's a non-board member, and I would just report it as non-board member salesperson. So I'm going to say change here, and that will update in our system. Now it's really upset because my sold price is way different than the list price, and so it's actually giving me a warning. This is really helpful in case you accidentally add or miss a zero on your pricing information. Now I definitely did this intentionally, so I'm going to say okay. And I'm going to say change. Now, actually, I think for our purposes that we've covered everything that we kind of need to cover today. And so I just want to throw it back to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And just if you have any questions for me or for Estefania that we should know about. Oh, circling back to cancellations. Okay, there is a question here. So circling back to cancellations, ITSO has allowed agents to process their own cancellations. For a brokerage where agents are very self-sufficient and used to ITSO allowing cancellations, this is going to cause a lot of extra work on us admins who don't maintain listings for agents. I've been on Realm with Trev for some time, and the cancellations being restricted is frustrating both for myself and agents. Okay, so for the cancellations, honestly, I'm actually surprised to know that salespeople have the ability to go in and do that, because even if a seller signs a termination of listing agreement or cancellation of listing agreement with their salesperson, the broker still has to release the person. So our system is set up as a reflection of compliant paperwork order. Is there a quick way to search for an agent, i.e. using the quick search bar? Yes. So I'm going to actually grab that in Realm quick for you. So in your contacts module, and this is where I go, by the way, every time I need to email a salesperson, I go directly into contacts, and I've got to reshare my screen with you. So let me just quickly do that. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen. Fantastic. I go into contacts in Realm, and then you'll notice over on the left-hand side, it says clients at the top. You can change that to be able to view the member roster, which has all of the PropTx users in the system. So I can say members here, and then I can use the search filter up at the top of the screen, and then I could be able to search for someone. And then when I find the salesperson I'm looking for, I can click on their profile, and then there's their email and their phone number and everything like that, which is really helpful. Okay, and I think that's it for questions. So I'm going to throw it. Very good. Peggy, as an admin, I have to generate a weekly list of our brokerage's open houses for social media. Is there a way to search for them? Right now, I can look at my dashboard and change my view to our brokerage open houses. Oh, that's a neat view. We don't have that particular view, but if you were to create a search within Realm, it's something that you could generate on demand. Let me just go into. I'm just checking to see if there's something in the listing inventory that would help with that. Not that I can see. Okay, so it would be more of a manual process. So what I'm thinking of is just that's a really great thing to take away, that maybe Nar Estefania you might want to email Nick about, and just say, hey, because I think that that's actually that would be really helpful for us to have. The good thing about Realm and the development team there is that they've been so just great at responding to feedback. And that is been really lovely as a trainer, as someone who's helped to beta test the software since its inception. They're so responsive. So when we say, hey, you know what, we really need a feature like X, Y, and Z, they've been good about that. There is a checkbox on the top of the search filters where you can say, show me open houses, which is helpful, but it would be nicer if it was built into the listing inventory, kind of like what you're describing. I have a question from Stacy. Is there a way to prevent the public open houses from appearing when searching for brokerage open houses when only choosing the brokerage open house option in search? Let me just see if I can recreate what you mean there. I'm just going to go back to share my screen, which I should just leave up for a bit. And I'm going to go into this one. Okay, Realm. So if I'm in search, and I want to start filtering by things like open houses, I'm going to go into more filters, and let me just clear out everything I've got going on in the background because I've got some old filters in here. Let me see. If I say has upcoming public open house, that should be the only thing that's coming through, not these broker open houses. If you are filtering by the field open houses, so all of these listings here should have a public open house on them. So let me just let that load in. I'm sharing my whole screen, so it's a little bit more, a little laggy. Oh, and because my camera's on, let me stop my video. Okay, so when I put that little checkbox on, it's going to bring me public open house information. So this is communicating in the background with the PropTx open house tool. And that's the suggestion I was saying for Peggy about the brokerage open houses is I might use this in combination with a field like we have an add a field. So I might come down here and say list brokerage phone number as an example so that I can see one specific branch. And I'm just going to move to a different area when I enter in this phone number because it's a Toronto phone number. But if I were to type in here a phone number and I've got this public open houses on, and that's for my office, then I would see, exactly the open houses that are associated with that branch. So that's the more manual process for it. If you use the field open houses, and let me just clear out my filters again here. You can also add the field open house date or open house from time. And let me see if I have an open house. Generally, I try to only use these check boxes. So if I say has an upcoming broker open house, that would specifically be broker opens versus upcoming public open house, which is not going to be those broker opens. It's going to be the public ones. When I use search and choose only broker open house, still showing public open houses for me. That is so interesting. Now let me just pull one more. So it should still display. So up here, like let's say, oh, I see. So this is because, so I have the filter on, good point. So I have the filter has upcoming broker open house, but this listing that I've selected, it's showing me public open house information. I can tell that's public open house because it's Saturday 2 to 4. This is because the salesperson, when they loaded the listing into Add Edit, they put public open house information in the field that says broker open house. So that's the reason for that. One way that you might filter that through is by adding the field open house date. So if I wanted to see open house dates that are like tomorrow, let's say as an example, and only tomorrow, because I want to go and do some broker opens tomorrow, then I'm able to filter that way. So I saw a listing there. So here's all the broker opens that are happening tomorrow. So maybe I'll go to this $14 million one on Teddington Park Avenue. Okay, and that's tomorrow, Wednesday. So the date can usually help filter that out, but what we can't filter out is people who put public open house information into the broker field. We've changed the label on it recently, so it's a little bit more clear, but I'm sure in 2024, not everybody reads everything. And then I'm thinking also, maybe they put it in there, they don't realize there's another place to put the public stuff, right? So we do what we can with field labels. So I don't see any other questions that have come in. So I think that means that if you would like, we can end this session a little bit early, and I'll be back at 1 for our next class.
Okay. Yes, if anybody has any other questions or feedback or comments, that'll be great. Also, you'll be receiving your credentials and login information shortly. So look at your emails for that. If after you've been active in the system and playing with it, let's say it that way, you encounter any questions, any issues, just reach to us at the board and we can find those answers for you. And yes, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for the participation. That's very well appreciated.
Thanks,
and thank you, Ashley, for this. I'll see you in an hour or so.
Yes, you shall. All right. Bye for now.